A novel titled Failed World. Before the earth, another world was made. Like Earth, it was tested, but the people of this planet did not pass the test. Their creator was part of the energy that introduced itself to humanity on Earth as God. This part of God died along with the failed world. The whole of God is a massive entity that spreads itself throughout all of creation. This is what the Word of God describes, using a communicative voice in the beginning of creation, explaining a plural entity. This is the same energy that shares the God mind. The whole energy of God is so massive, it spreads throughout infinity, giving life to other worlds. Each part of the Creator goes by a different name and shows itself as a distinct king of God, although it is part of the whole one true Creator Spirit. Each world is unique compared to others, with life being defined in completely different ways in these various types of solar systems. Their suns are completely different compared to the sun of the Earth. Some life forms are very different, while others are closer to the human race. The history of the old failed world is unique because it was the first experiment of creation before humanity to learn what could be done and what would never work. Earth is special because being a planet that was given love. Earth is special being a planet that was given love. This gift was born from a hidden second chance after the old world was destroyed by incredible evil. After the creation of plants and animals, that old planet before Earth began its process of change into a failed world. As soon as the first two people were created, they made a choice to choose evil over good. More people were made, and they chose to follow the first two. This went on until the people angered their Creator beyond repair with their free will decisions. Still, their Creator allowed everything to play out until the end, which was only for a short time before the failed world destroyed itself. This is a hidden history. If humans on Earth knew of the failed world and its previous existence, religious leaders presumed they'd be out of business. The keepers of these records did their best to conceal the history that was given to them by alien life forms, but the knowledge got out eventually by people who broke away from the church after witnessing monumental corruption. One man felt compelled to tell his son all that he learned after his son had a vivid dream of the failed world. This man's son described things that were exactly what he himself learned from studying those smuggled documents given to him by his father. It all started with telling the story of the first couple from the failed world who did much worse than Adam and Eve. They were told not to go in a certain area that was not meant for them. When they asked the voice of the Creator why, they were told that there was such a thing as evil that would take away everything they had there in their area of paradise, which was all they had ever known. Curiosity made them wander further away each day, causing the couple to explore the borders of their paradise home. The gradual migration towards the edge of paradise began mutually, without ever there being a thought to see the place of evil. Once the couple got close enough to see it, after tending to their land further and further away from home, curiosity overwhelmed them. Without saying a word, they wandered into the place of evil, and were greeted with a pleasantly kind voice. Everything there was masking itself to appear wonderfully beautiful. The couple had no concept of deception. The kind voice was heard, but not revealing where it came from, telling them to think in a way that questioned their Creator. Think, children, what is evil compared to good? Why do you need good when evil can give you anything that good will and more? If you choose to live here, you can create your own world with me. The voice behind a bush asked the curious people. Now I understand what the Creator meant. All we had to do was go against the only commandment, so we could have more given to us, the first man said. The first woman then said, we will no longer have good, because we will have more. In that moment, they made their decision, thinking they solved the riddle of the Creator. Their old home disappeared, and there would be no more good things on the planet for them. Then the Creator made more people in other places around them, where goodness could still exist. They were told by the Creator what happened with the first couple, so they chose to go find them and join them, as if to worship them instead of choosing good. The voice of the Creator did not give up easily, and kept explaining to each couple more and more, but still the temptation to be their own God was too much, and everyone wanted more than what was given to them. So the corruption of the failed world began. Free will, to have the choice to go for or against the will of the Creator, was given to these people, and that part of the Creator died by giving itself up to this choice. Evil on this particular planet was a strong thing that was not supposed to be, because the Creator wished that His people would choose to obey His vision for them in paradise. But the Creator had to learn that if there would be another mind independently thinking outside of the God mind, it would never be as good as the Creator. So one by one, each new couple were given the choice and went away from paradise until there was no more good left in the world. The failed world was consumed by evil, and every mind was corrupted. Then the jealous angels fell upon the earth to give their influence. These first evil spirits of fallen angels wanted to be given the free will of the first people. So they did as the people did, ruling over them, becoming their gods alongside the first couple, who were worshipped as the example, teaching the others how to create their own world. As soon as there was a group of people gathered in the place of evil, when the Creator shut out any possibilities of paradise on this planet, the evil spirits began to speak their influence. What do you know of pleasure? The evil spirits asked the people. The first couple looked at each other, and after the man was given a nod by the woman, he answered, telling the evil spirits to eat and to make love. Is this all you know of pleasure? The evil spirits asked. The first woman then answered, saying, no, we also like to wander about. This is what led us here. We also like to play games. We like to interact with the animals as well and tend to the garden. These are all of the things we know of pleasure. We will add much to this. You've done well in coming here, the evil spirits told them. The first couple were made happy, and so the first group of people celebrated this accomplishment. Their defiance against their Creator was not looked at as anything bad, but considered a choice, as this was the truth they knew to be real. They didn't care about doing what their Creator wanted, because they knew they were given a choice. They had to learn through experience about consequences, and it would at first be indulgence of pleasures into extreme excess. This changed when violence and disease was introduced outside of their protection. Affairs started these things through the spirit of jealousy. The evil spirits influenced the people to experiment in lustful acts outside of their given partners. This only led to violence that created more problems for them. The evil spirits always whispered in the people's ears, never revealing themselves. They chose to hide in the shadows and be like the voice of their creator, so that it was much easier to deceive the people. Without the protection of paradise, the people were vulnerable. The spirit of the Creator had no pity on them. Chance after chance was given, until disappointment reached the point of embarrassment and heartbreak. I don't know what I thought would happen. I only wished for good, the Creator said. These words were lost to the lost, as the people disregarded the sentiment. Their selfishness blinded them along with the overstimulation of pleasure. The children of the first humans on this failed world had no chance. They were raised by ignorant parents who thought themselves to be like gods. With the help of evil beings who were masquerading as other humans, the first generation of people on the failed world built a paradise of their own according to their own selfish, lustful desires. The names of the first humans in the failed world were created by themselves as they developed their own language in their first years while communicating with the other creatures. The first couple, listed here as female first and male, were Maditua and Bonitisi. The next couple was Aknal and Deeppal. Then came the first couple named Kekrek and Fernalfor. The fourth couple were named Gosrek and Hutichi. The fifth were named Ui and Hav. The sixth couple were named Wick and Lexorn. These were names that had a connection to the other planets bearing life, whose inhabitants were also given the gift of free will. They added to the names God gave them, making them longer with definitions explaining their separation from good. When their creators saw that they were finding pleasure outside of their given partners, another person was created and specifically put there among the first people. Yaza was created with no gender, no genitals, and no defining features that made them male or female. No one could tell if Yaza was male or female, resembling the face of an angelic child, although none of the people yet knew what a child looked like, because none of them gave birth yet at this time. Yaza was created with a great purpose, to give the first people one last chance to see the error of their ways in their sexual immorality. The people at first wanted to have a sexual experience with Yaza, but saw there were no genitals, either male or female. Yaza had no desire to partake in anything sexual. Yaza tried to talk to the people about what the Creator instilled in their mind concerning what was good and pleasing to the Creator and what was not. But the people didn't care, only laughing and telling Yaza that the people got what they wanted by solving God's riddle. When Yaza was mocked and scorned, Yaza became sad. The people tried to cheer Yaza up with strong wine and other plants having the equivalent chemical compound of euphoric drugs. Yaza refused after seeing one man drown another in the river, after becoming drunk and jealous of sodomizing his wife, then seeing her enjoy it. Fernalfor strangled Deepal, but Deepal drowned before having the chance to die of strangulation, as Fernalfor held Deepal underwater for too long, initially thinking he'd release Deepal after scaring him into obedience as a less superior male. When Deepal was released by Fernalfor's grip, he was expected to rise to his feet, coughing and choking. The lifeless body of Deepal lay face down in the shallow river instead, causing his hair to sway in the current over the rocks. Fernalfor lifted Deepal up aggressively and tried to revive him, not knowing yet what was death. He shouted at his friend who betrayed him, then yelled to his partner Kekrek, "Wake up, weakling! You should serve me as your master now that I've defeated you, not to enjoy rest or slumber," Fernalfor said as he spat in the face of the dead. After letting go of Deepal's body, Fernalfor had words with his partner. "Kekrek, now that you have betrayed me, I will take Deepal's wife. I have no more use for you." Fernalfor lifted the head of Deepal out of the water by his hair, then let go. After this, he ran after Kekrek like a wild animal chasing his prey. Kekrek kicked and fought for her life, but Fernalfor choked her in the same manner as Deepal, drowning Kekrek before she could die by the strong grip around her neck. When Fernalfor saw that Deepal's partner Aknal was too upset to do anything, showing no interest in becoming Fernalfor's partner, he became more infuriated. As hatred boiled over, he forced Yaza to drink with him, causing Yaza to cough and choke. When Yaza spit up some of the wine, Fernalfor laughed, although clearly angry while raising his voice. Fernalfor said, "Ah! You're not made to vomit yet. It's only a little drool and spit. Keep going until your stomach is full." Yaza had no choice other than to obey Fernalfor, as his anger overpowered Yaza and anyone else who would have dared intervene. Everyone else sat and watched without a care as they were inebriated, feeling high states of euphoric bliss. They didn't care that Deepal and Kekrek were no longer with them. It would take the people a while to learn what death was, after seeing the decomposing bodies later. Aknal wept and whimpered, not wanting to do anything, so Fernalfor yelled, "Then go! I'll come to you tomorrow, woman. Yaza, you'll have to suffice for tonight." Yaza was taken and forced to go down on Aknal in her tent. Fernalfor grabbed Yaza by the neck after they became very drunk together. Fernalfor told Yaza that they could join Deepal and Kekrek if they'd like, if Yaza wanted to be put to sleep in the same manner, unless Yaza would do as he commanded. In her lust, Aknal succumbed to the violation, forcing herself to enjoy the oral that Yaza was forced to give her. Aknal didn't care that Fernalfor started to sodomize Yaza while she received her pleasure. Yaza couldn't scream out in pain. He was silenced with his face buried deep in between Aknal's legs, causing her to achieve a strong orgasm with this excitement that surprised her in her sleep. Fernalfor shouted at them while he reached climax himself. The whole time, Fernalfor was demonically laughing as he thrusted, pushing Yaza's face into Aknal's squirting. Before the Creator could take their lives, Yaza made that choice. When it was over, Yaza walked into the deep part of the river, holding a large stone that was tied around his neck. Yaza learned what would happen by seeing the lifeless bodies still face down in the moonlight. Yaza cried out to the Creator, "Fernalfor humiliated me by your will, my Creator. Is this the example I was to give? To not know pleasure, but only pain and humiliation? I give my flesh back to you." In that moment, the rest of that part of the Creator went back away from the failed world. The Creator took the spirit of Yaza, and with that pain they died together, going back to the source of the heavens and the whole Spirit of God. Fernalfor didn't care. Aknel was only sad that she could not experience what she was made to feel ever again by Yaza. So the next day, she insisted that Fernalfor would force the first man to do what Yaza had done. Aknel said to Fernalfor, "You are much stronger than Banatisi. Take him tonight and do with him what you did to Yaza. If you make him achieve what Yaza did to me, then you can do the same with him as well. Then I will also allow you to take Maditua as a second wife." If Yaza did not die, the Creator would have killed Fernalfor immediately, but the surprise action Yaza took caused the Creator to abandon the failed world, leaving it in the darkness of evil. Any hint of goodness was only a trick to ensnare the people who came after the first people. They would be born in an evil place, which was the failed world. Most of the people went to breed with evil creatures that deceived them. These evil beings pretended to be like them. Although they looked human, they were not. There were people who never had a designated place in paradise, but were created as another failed experiment by the Creator. The test went worse than the Creator God ever imagined, but learned what not to do next time. Before then, though, there was a time of grieving. Being that God's time is bigger than humanity's sense of passing time, it was a long time before any hint of closure came to the failed world, which the Creator left behind. Instead of the Creator taking action to kill the first people, they began to kill each other. In their jealousy, most of the men killed one another and their female partners who got caught in the overbearing jealousy. Only one man survived when it was all said and done. Fernalfor did force the first man to do as Yaza had done. Only Banatisi was murdered afterwards. Maditua tried to take her own life, just as Yaza had done. When she learned all that had happened after her days-long plant-caused trip wore off, Banatisi was bound with his hands behind his back when Fernalfor took him away from Maditua. When the act was carried out, Fernalfor took a cutting tool used for wood and removed Banatisi's head from his body. Fernalfor then drank the blood that flowed from the wounds, mixing it in with his cup of wine, then made Aknel drink. Seeing the resemblance of blood to wine, he told her, "Tonight we become the new gods of paradise." Fernalfor referred to his own law in the evil place they called paradise, which was built by their own greed and desires. Everyone worshipped the first couple until they were overthrown. The others had mixed reactions. Gosrek and Hutici were loyal and faithful to the first couple. They were both angrily sad that Maditua and Banatisi were compromised, with Banatisi's body seen humiliated, having his head placed on a spike and seeing Maditua treated like a dog was enough to enrage Gosrick and Hutici, causing a big fight between everyone. It did not end well for Gosrick and Hutici, since the others envied the first couple, just the same as Fernalfor did. Hutici was killed by Jav and Lexorn. After Hutici killed Fernalfor, Jav and Lexorn then argued who should be the new supreme god, until it was decided by the women that they should be the ruling goddesses together. They had Lexorn killed, so that Jav could be manipulated by them, as they all knew that Jav was a weak-minded man, easily succumbed by strong wine and magic plants. Jav was made to be their dog, and other creatures who posed as men came to take the women as their new partners. Each of the first women had many sexual partners like this, who gladly posed as male servants to influence them to do their bidding across the land. Uy and Wiek made sure to kill Maditua and Gosrek, knowing they could not be trusted. First Uy killed Maditua, claiming to the people that Maditua first tried to attack her, but took the knife from her hand, which wasn't true. Maditua did not have the knife in her hand. It was Uy who deceived Maditua into thinking she could let her guard down mid-conversation when Uy stabbed Maditua in the stomach. Maditua died very painfully, while Uy took pleasure in the sight of this deceitful killing. When Uy told Wick what she had really done in secret, Wick took the advice of Uy and decided to kill Gosrick 1 week later. Uy told Wick, "You see that no one questioned what I told them. Now you know that you can do the same with Gosrick." Gosrick put up a fight as she was on edge, waiting for something to happen. She suspected foul play with what happened to the first woman dying in a way she could not believe was true. Gosrick knew that she was poisoned with strong plants, but in her disoriented state, she was pushed down the steps of her temple home. When it was seen that she was still alive, Wick cut Gosrick's throat while she screamed. This time, it was not so easy to convince the people that it was self-defense, but no one cared. Wick was simply put at the bottom of society, known to not be trusted, while Uy was held in a higher position until Wick exposed the truth of all that had really happened. Wick killed Uy, then was sentenced to be burned alive for her actions. Both of them would have been able to live if they did not betray one another. These were the first acts and deeds among the first people in the failed world. Then came the second generation, who learned of the first people's corrupt, vile experiences. Most followed them. Out of the first humans to live in the failed world, only Hav and Oknal survived to live in their old age. Oknal was the ruler of the people, while Hav was her dog. Oknal was put on a pedestal by the people, seeing that she endured incredible evil. The creatures posing as humans filled her head with ego, worshipping her, so that she could be manipulated into becoming the flesh goddess. She only bore one child, then was cursed to have stillborns with bestial deformities, dead or dying upon birth. After Hav impregnated Oknal, her jealous rage could not be satisfied. She wished to have had a different life if circumstances could have been different, secretly within her thoughts, keeping to herself the failures of her life decisions. Oknal wished another man could have been the father of her son. Anyone other than Hav, who she made her slave, treated worse than a dog. She missed her first and second husbands, Deepal and Fernal Thor. Ochnal never let anyone know these twisted feelings, especially the humiliation she endured after Deepal was killed. This jealous rage developed deep within Ochnal, creating a monstrous force of wrath that conquered the first and second generations of people, moving into the third generation of mankind to rule over them. When Havan Ochnal's son Nal was 4 years old, he walked in on his mother having an orgy with men who pretended to be human, but secretly were creatures from the outer lands of their newly built paradise. When Nal told his father what he had seen, Hav became furious, becoming possessed with the spirit of jealousy that was the undoing of all the first humans of the failed world. Hav had done well to avoid it before that day, but the curse came for him as well, as was destined to be for their outrageous acts. In his innocence, Nal told his father that his mother was being attacked by a group of men, explaining to Hav the only way he knew how. Nal described their penises stabbing her, but said she enjoyed it from her reaction. Hav went to comfort Ochnal, but those men, along with many other people, grabbed hold of Hav while he resisted in protest. "You've ruined our son. There is no more hope for him, as you've taken his innocence by what he has seen on this day," Hav yelled at the cruel woman Ochnal. Ochnal only laughed, thinking Hav was pathetic, and told him, "I will have another son, and many other children after him, but they will not have a father as weak as you." Hav continued to yell in protest, "You will not even know the father partaking in such debauchery." "It doesn't matter. My children will know their mother. This way it will be even better." Ochnal revealed her intentions, thinking this wickedness was best. Ochnal then ordered the people to remove Hav's genitals by tying a string around them while he was bound to a stake. Ochnal had forgotten which spiked skull was which, but it didn't matter to her anymore, since she was the only one left of the first 12 people from the original paradise. The stake where Hav was tied to had a skull on top of the point, just like the other spikes that surrounded him. Hav was left there to think he would die, but in the morning he was released. Nal was forced to see his father this way. "You shall learn from this now. Never allow yourself to be such a weak man," Ochnal told her son. First Nal cried for his father, but when he saw that his mother was going to do nothing, Nal became emotionless from the trauma. He grew up before his time and was born into a new kind of evil. Ochnal was advised by the ones closest to her, who were creatures pretending to be human just like everyone else. Physically, they were just like any other human, but inside, their minds were different, incapable of making good decisions that would align with God's will. Nal had no choice but to live in the only world he knew. When Nal grew to be a man, Ochnal grew intensely wicked, frustrated as she could not conceive again. Each time she would give birth to another stillborn, she would conceive again with another man, but the results were always the same. She was cursed. When Nal was grown, he defied his mother, telling her to stop trying. Even though he said he was tired of seeing his mother suffer, he had deeper reasons for wanting Ochnal to stop this madness. Ochnal had her suspicions, and imagined her son wanted no other competition to succeed his mother. Nal had no desire to rule the people as his mother had done, but in her mind, Ochnal could think of no other thing. Being a flesh goddess was all she cared about. all she lived for, now wanted to do things productively without the excessive evil that disgusted him. Still, the wickedness drew him in. Now was a drunkard. He didn't partake in the other plant ingestion that altered the minds of the people, but his vice was strong wine. Now drank every night to deal with his mother's corruption and all of the evil things people did that sickened him. Hav was still alive but had gone mad. Hav was forced to develop an addiction for the strongest of plants. They kept him obedient for years until his mind was so eaten up that he was uncontrollable. Seeing that he was not a threat, Ochnal released Hav into the wild, where he was banished, free to roam with the animals. This became his only desire. Hav lived in the places furthest away from the people so that he could be at peace. Now gave up on trying to communicate with his father. Hav was going to do what he wanted to do, and there was no stopping him. Talking sense into Hav was impossible. Now vowed to himself, making the promise that he would never eat of the plants that destroyed his father, which also kept the people under control of his mother. Still now drank. His mind was forever altered, away from the natural way of thinking. This caused now to become corrupted by women by choice. These women, just like all the rest of the people who lived in the failed world, were not human, but came from the species of people that were of the devil. The devil was the same but different in this world, as was their creator God, who died and left to go back to the whole spirit of the creator. On this planet, the devil was interacting with the people through every person, as they were a part of the same mind. This mind of evil thrived in the failed world. Their only remaining threat was now, along with his mother and father, if they would suddenly choose to do good in their latter days. The devil was not concerned with losing control over Now's parents, but knew that Now wanted no part in the wickedness of everyone else, aside from the women who he entertained himself with, and the drinking of wine to the excess. Now made friends with wicked men as well, who influenced him in his daily debauchery. Now's favorite phrase to shout when nightfall would come was, "Women and wine." Now did not like sharing women with other men, and got into a fight with one man who wanted to be with one of the women that Now was already known to sleep with. This fighting is what sent Now to his mother's chambers when she was giving birth. The argument sent her into labor after already being days late, unable to push after her water broke. The stench was unmistakable rot, and everyone knew the baby was dead inside Ochnal for quite some time before she finally released the dead from her womb. Now was unapologetic. "I saved your life," Now told his mother, after seeing another dead monstrosity come out of her. "You want me to stop, so that you will never have to worry about competition after I'm gone. I cannot fault you for that. Still, let me mourn. You know how difficult this is for me. I'm not willing to accept this fate," Ochnal scolded her drunk son. One of Ochnal's advisors, who was like a right-hand nurse to her during every stillborn, said something to her that Now could not hear, as it was whispered in front of him. This angered the drunk Now, who was already feeling angry about being brought into his mother's chambers to be judged by the people. Now knew these people would ask his mother what should be done about his fighting. Fighting over a woman was nothing Aknal wanted to address when it came to her son. When she learned what brought Nal there to interrupt her quiet night, Aknal became so upset she forced the stillborn out of her body that was tired of releasing dead monstrosities. Aknal ordered both the man who fought against her son and the woman they were fighting over to be beheaded after setting their bodies on fire. The screams of the burning executions made Aknal smile. This further angered Nal to see his mother take such pleasure in the most wicked of things. What makes you smile from the sound of their screams? Is it my anguish or theirs? Nal asked his mother, after most of the people with her left the room so that she could talk more privately with her drunken son, who they thought needed to be punished. Please leave me, Aknal ordered the rest of the people who were closest to her, who surrounded her bedside. Will you talk to me now? Nal asked one last time when the rest of the people had gone and left the room. Neither your anguish nor theirs. It is the fact that they are gone due to their weakness. They could not stand the flames like any other guilty person. You see, when a person has no guilt, they do not make noises like that. Even if they do scream, it does not have the sound of contempt. I smile because my actions are justified. This is a satisfaction you will one day know. Aknal surprised her drunken son with this answer. You speak of things my mind is not capable of understanding. Here I am, a man, still learning from his mother. Nal thought his flattery would release him from his mother's judgment, although he was disgusted, hiding disgust. I see you've been punished by the loss of this woman, but it is not enough. You must be taken away from these things that weaken you. You are to stay away from all of your friends until you can be sober. That way, you can see what you really want. After 30 days, I will see you again and speak with you. Aknal once again surprised her son. This order was a slap in the face of the drunken Nal, who held his mother in contempt for her salacious desires. He felt the hypocrisy cut him deep, but had no choice other than to obey her. Aknal was ruthless, and even her own son didn't put it past her, knowing she'd murder her only son if she felt justified in her own warped reasoning, which was no sound or sane way at all. Justice did not exist in the failed world, the same as there were no more good people to accompany Nal. The Creator would have made more good people if it weren't for the mistakes of the first ones who failed. Nal was going to have to find his own way as a man on his path to what he felt was right. Nal only asked his mother after the order of punishment, "Then will you honor my wishes once you see me after I have been clear of a clouded mind?" Aknal simply said, "Of course," agreeing to what she set in place. When Nal left the presence of his mother to go to his place of confinement, she plotted against him. Aknal called in her closest people, who only briefly left the room, and told them to serve his food laced with magic plants. She wanted to control her son the way she did with the rest of the people. This was her plan of deceit, to make him think he was sober after quitting drinking wine. By doing this, it was thought that now would think he was losing his mind with cravings for wine, as if his clear mind were damaged. On the first day of his drugging, Now knew something was wrong. He didn't understand why he was feeling so strange having delusions, if he were supposed to have a clear mind without wine. He thought that the food delivered to him was spoiled, but after it happened a second time, then a third, he began to suspect something more sinister. Now asked the people who brought his meals if he could pick and prepare his own food, but they insisted that he should do nothing, orders of his mother. Now couldn't imagine why his mother would want him drugged if she was the one who insisted he stop drinking. Now could not understand that kind of evil. The deceit was far too twisted for his young mind. Now was a young man, learning what it meant to think for himself, and started to make his own decisions based on careful discernment. This was a dangerous thing, to grow up in the failed world, being the last human from the original paradise. All the other people were a different kind of species who pretended to be from the original paradise, which was rejected by the first humans. They got what they wanted by force, but only for a time, as their corruption boiled over until it consumed them in their own desires. The first time his food was brought to him, Now didn't think twice. He ate it up and felt fine at first. His hangover from the wine blended into a long-lasting delusion from the magic plants mixed in with his meal. The second meal made him think differently, since he knew he hadn't drank in 2 days by that night. He told himself that he would try it one more time after his mother's servants told him it was normal to feel this way. Quitting drinking for the first few days, since the wine he drank was very strong. Now didn't believe it, since he knew the feeling when he was younger, quitting drinking after becoming sick before. So he pretended to go along with their suggestion and ate the third meal. This was far too intense of a mind-altered experience, Now thought. He was feeling so high nothing bothered him, and was imagining seeing and talking to God, who was not there. This was a significant experience, not just for Now, but for the whole failed world. The people would learn that they were not God's chosen people, but were left rejected in their fabricated illusion. Every day after this, Now would not eat his meals given to him, but pretended to. He found areas under the floor where he could dig, so he buried his meals, covering them as deep into the soil as he could, making sure he would not be caught by his mother's servants. This worked, but not by this alone. Now was becoming a clever young man in those days, given the time to think. He pretended to be inebriated by the magic plants, although he did not eat them, knowing if he didn't convince his mother's servants, he'd never be able to trick his mother, or be able to repay her for her deceit done against him. When the month was over and the time had come for Now to go see his mother again, he grew nervous. He had starved himself for too long, living only on water and bread. The bread was sparsely given, so Now's nutrition was hardly sufficient, as he avoided every other part of the meals brought to him by his mother's servants. Now knew if he didn't get at least one good meal before talking to his mother, he wasn't going to be able to think straight, therefore unable to do what he needed to do if he wanted to outwit his mother. Now resorted to violence, but not only killing, he did the unthinkable. Aknau's servants came to Now on the final day of his trials, telling him to get ready. We will be back in 1 hour's time to bring you back to your mother's chamber. Now knew that his mother already drank human blood, so he would not feel guilty preparing her a feast of human flesh. When the servants came back, Now had a good fire going to roast them. After stabbing them, he then took the flesh from their bones and arranged it on platters with vegetables from the garden, which he was forbidden to go to while he was kept inside for that whole month. Ocnal was so impressed by her son's change of heart that she gave him a seat at her right hand, replacing the servants he killed. It was a bold move for Now to do this, but he knew it might work. If it didn't, Now was prepared to fight till death against his mother and all the people who obeyed her. Now was disgusted with himself and what he had done. Knowing there was no turning back, he committed the most heinous act, sinking lower in the pit of evil that already caused the Creator to abandon their world. Now was sad to know that the first people, the generation before him, chose to leave what God intended for them, never knowing what the original paradise was even supposed to be like. All Now saw was the new paradise, which was no paradise at all, and he knew it with all of his heart, no matter how twisted. Some time passed. Now stayed sober. He made plans to go away into the wilderness around the area where his father lived. He did not know that his wishes would be granted in the way things came about. Now received news from 7 different women whom he regularly slept with after being a nightly drunkard with his old friends. They came to his mother requesting to tell her son that they had a child who only could have one father, being Now. They all claimed to have waited so that the resemblance could be seen between father and child. With each case it was undeniable. They all had Now's golden blonde hair, which no one else had. Now's mother was going to kill him. Ocnal became so jealous with rage, she couldn't even understand what had come over her. Her emotions were dictating her reactions before she could even think of any kind of self-control. For her to have tried and failed until her womb dried up, then for her son to have had all these children without even trying, having no intention of becoming a father in his drunkenness, sent Ocnal into a psychotic spell in her final years. She became even more wicked and ruthless, which somehow found favor with the people. Ocnal went to her balcony, where she called all the people in the city to hear. "If you see my son, kill him. Whoever catches him first will be my new child." This offer meant that whoever caught Now would get whatever they wanted. Some of the people knew better, never wanting to put themselves in such a position. Others wished to get that close to Ocnal just to be able to manipulate her until she would be gone in her old age. Although Ocnal was not too terribly old, she aged miserably from disease. This was her fate, as she had chosen by the way she treated her body. This gave the people a good example of what not to do, but the people were not human. These people were creatures who looked human, but were created without the capability to do good. Now was the only one who had that capability. He fathered 7 children that grew up to be young adults, but they were only half human. All of the other people were creatures of the dark, the outside lands that never were paradise. When Ocnal put the hit on her son, The crowd roared with excitement. Nothing like this had ever been declared. It put a new light under the people that scared now. He knew that there was no more time to plan. Now had to go into the wilderness to hide if he wanted to live. Now's hope was to see his children and explain what had happened. They needed to know why their father impregnated 7 women at once, not knowing about them until that day. He could only hope to receive his children's love and attention. Now didn't know how, but he was going to find a way to speak with them. Now ran away from the so-called paradise on foot, with no time to take a horse. He ran until his feet were swollen, sore, and injured. Even so, now was thankful to have escaped with his life. In the middle of the wilderness, now found a place where he could lay his head next to a little creek running through the forest. He drank water, then made sure to rest. At this time, now thought deeply and intensely. He could do nothing else, and became frozen in this place, locked within his heavy solitude. And this is the first 25 pages.